Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel, The Primordial Law. Volume 4, Xuansheng Dao Sect Twin Rice Sect. Chapter 56 311 Bitter Cultivation in the Palace, Entering the Dao Seed Realm. 56th of Volume 4. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. Time flew by. 3 months passed in a flash. Li Wei had been staying with Shencang the entire time, each day feeling like a year. He was constantly worried about Tang Wanzhou being discovered and dared not go to the Tanggu Sea to cultivate with the Fusong Divine Tree and the Time Cocoon. His cultivation progress was painfully slow. Fortunately, during this period, Shencang had successfully reattached Qishao and Tuoba Buchuo's severed limbs. Shencang would often discuss Buddhist scriptures with him. Li Wei knew nothing about such matters. The Chan sect was a Taoist sect, after all. He could only recite some familiar Buddhist sayings, such as, the body is the Bodhi tree, the mind a clear mirror stand, and, form does not differ from emptiness, emptiness does not differ from form. Form itself is emptiness, emptiness itself is form. To his surprise, she listened intently, as if truly gaining insight. One day, Shencang finally integrated the sixfold samsara burning karma technique with her psychic power. The sixfold samsara manifested around her, ethereal and dreamlike, with thunder and lightning coexisting with rain and dew, constantly annihilating and regenerating, sometimes empty and desolate, sometimes vibrant with 6 colors. The entire southern Purity Nanqing palace was bathed in 10,000 rays of fiery clouds, yet the flames weren't purely destructive. Under her control, even when they brushed past grass and trees, they didn't harm a single blade of grass. The entire main hall was enveloped in a fantastical realm of dream bubbles. On one side of the sky, fiery clouds blazed, on the other, a curtain of thunder and lightning poured down. Shencang retracted all her power, stood up from the field ridge, and felt utterly elated. This joy reflected in her appearance, transforming her into a pure immortal physique radiating boundless life energy. Her skin and hair shimmered with divine light, and her features, now more youthful and refined than ever, possessed a serene, ethereal beauty that could captivate the soul. Li Wei sat meditating on the opposite side of the field ridge. Only after all the celestial phenomena had vanished did he ask, Hall Master, have you entered the transcendent realm? Transcending isn't so easy. But I've opened the door. Crossing it is just a matter of time. My psychic power still isn't strong enough. Shencang was in an exceptionally good mood. She gazed leisurely at Li Wei, her voice melodious. You have a deep affinity with the Buddhism. Read more scriptures, don't indulge in women, and stop fighting and killing. Cultivate your mind and body, and perhaps one day you might become a true Buddha. Practice Sihang enlightenment more. Use its battle technique intent to connect with the great Tao of the universe and condense a Tao seed of Buddhahood. You also show great talent for the sixfold samsara burning karma technique. In just 3 months, you've already achieved minor mastery. With more practice, you should reach major mastery within a year or 2 at most. Li Wei listened quietly, sensing that Hall Master and was giving him pointed advice out of spite. After all, over the past 3 months, Li Wei had corrected her more often, and she had even mastered the Sihang enlightenment through repeated practice. Shencang, though she didn't show it on the surface, must have been somewhat annoyed. Now that her sixfold samsara burning karma technique had advanced further, she had finally broken through the clouds and seen the sun, her entire being radiating an air of triumphant satisfaction. Taking advantage of her good mood, Li Wei said, Hall Master, this 4th divine sun position. It's more of a curse than a blessing. Can I please decline it? Afraid of Xikong Jingyuan and Xikong Yanlin. Shencang's smile vanished. Li Wei replied, it's not exactly fear. It's just that I'm not one for the spotlight. I prefer to keep a low profile. You want to keep a low profile after killing Wang Shu. Countless people dream of becoming a divine son, and you're turning it down. What? Do you think being a divine son of the Twin Rice sect is inferior to being a divine hidden god of the Zhu Li clan? Shencang questioned him, her voice devoid of anger. Li Wei said, of course not. Shencang said calmly, divine sons and daughters aren't required to complete missions every season. Moreover, the 4th divine son receives 100,000 merit points each season, totaling 400,000 per year, which can be exchanged for a wealth of resources. In the future, you can even build your own prefecture at the main hall. You can't possibly stay with your master forever, can you? Furthermore, as divine sons and daughters, you'll have access to vast resources and manpower outside. In the divine sect, the Heaven Valley Tianjia hall's influence surpasses that of the other 3 halls combined, with hundreds of millions of followers. That's why it has 3 vice hall masters. In terms of strength, the divine sect is comparable to the imperial court. Both of you are in the Dao Seed realm. Why did your killing of Wang Ji and the others cause barely a ripple, while your killing of Wang Shu nearly led to a 4 halls joint tribunal? It's because the higher your status, the greater the price they must pay to move against you. And Shencang tossed Li Wei the divine sun life token engraved with his name. Remember to drip your blood into the life token. Don't even think about severing ties with the divine sect. If you flee or betray us, what will happen to your master? Both your master and I have vouched for you. Cultivate the golden rice well in the southern purity Nanqing Palace. When your master returns, she'll take you to the heavenly principles Tianli Hall to complete the sacrificial notification ceremony for your divine child consecration. With those words, and Shencang calmly stepped out of the formation's light veil. She swung her prayer beads in one hand and held the other behind her back, radiating an unfathomable aura as she walked out of the southern purity Nanqing Palace. Greetings, Hall Master. Welcome back from seclusion, Hall Master. Heavenly phenomena have appeared. Congratulations on your breakthrough, Hall Master, and your imminent transcendence. Outside the southern purity Nanqing Palace, a sea of people had gathered. The earlier astonishing phenomenon had drawn countless disciples and elders from the main hall, all kneeling in congratulations. The atmosphere was festive and jubilant. In Shencang's seclusion in the southern purity Nanqing Palace instead of the Spirit Valley Lingu Hall had inadvertently bolstered the authority of the southern venerable's eldest disciple, who was stationed there. This newly appointed fourth divine son held extraordinary significance in Hall Master An's eyes. After Shencang left, Li Wei could finally sneak into the blood mud space and use the Fusong divine tree and time cocoon to accelerate his cultivation in the seventh sea. During this time, he had to be careful to prevent Tang Wanzhou from discovering his secret. Now that he was a 3-star spiritual master, his time cocoon could last for 10 days. Meanwhile, only 3 days had passed outside the cocoon. For the next 6 months, Li Wei remained almost entirely within the southern purity Nanqing Palace, except to exchange for cultivation resources. He became remarkably well behaved. In the eyes of Shencang and Yao Qingshan, he had finally abandoned his longing for the outside world and was diligently cultivating and tending to the golden rice. Seeing his diligence and obedience, they each brought him gifts whenever they returned from their outings. During this period, Li Wei accompanied Yao Qingshan to the heavenly principles Tianli Hall to complete the sacrificial notification ceremony. Being the fourth divine son of the heretical sect held no significance to him, as long as he wasn't forced to commit heinous acts. He was content to cultivate in the main hall's tranquility. Besides, he had saved the young lord of the Northern Territory. If he ever found himself in a difficult situation, he would at least have a fallback plan. Blood mud space. Within the time cocoon, Li Wei finally achieved great perfection in the seventh sea. At that instant, his veins, meridians, and 10 springs erupted with golden radiance, resonating like a chorus of plucked strings. This was the process of further solidifying and consolidating his foundation after reaching great perfection in the 5 seas realm. His veins, meridians, and physical body all underwent a transformation. His spring's spiritual power surged even more powerfully. The world barriers of his 7 chi seas shimmered with light. Once he reached the Dao Seed realm, he would no longer need to rely on spring liquid to expand his wind mansion and ancestral field. After a long pause, whoosh! A spatial fluctuation erupted from Li Wei's ancestral field below his navel. Immediately, the inner and outer worlds connected, and the ancestral field began frantically absorbing the 5 elements' energy from the heavens and earth. The 5 elements' energy transformed into 2 types of qi, clear, pure, and turbid. The clear, pure qi rose upward, turning profound black like the sky, while the turbid qi sank downward, turning yellow like the earth. This was so difficult. Finally, it's complete. 36,000 for the wind mansion, 72,000 for the ancestral field, perfectly aligning with the heavenly gang and earthly fiends' numbers. Li Wei's heart was filled with emotion, as if he had walked 108,000 miles to finally obtain the true scripture. He had spent far too long cultivating and accumulating resources in the 6th and 7th seas, consuming vast amounts of wealth. But there was no other way. His innate world was simply too vast. The 4th and 5th seas alone were comparable in size to others' wind mansions and ancestral fields. For a martial mystic cultivator of his caliber, with a wind mansion and ancestral field spanning 108,000 square feet, it would normally take decades to achieve great perfection. The ancestral field is truly different from the wind mansion. It's like a world with both sky and earth, not just simply larger. No wonder cultivating a Dao seed in the wind mansion can't lead to breaking through to a mortal realm. What's this? As Li Wei examined his ancestral field internally, he discovered an astonishing sight. The 9th spring ancestral field was located below his navel. The 10th spring divine gate, the divine gate of the navel, was situated directly above the ancestral field, at his navel. The ancestral field resembled a spherical world, while the boundless divine gate above it was like the vast, empty cosmos. More crucially, beyond the observable area shrouded in immortal haze within the divine gate lay a void of pitch-black emptiness, perfectly mirroring the vastness of the cosmos. Li Wei could even imagine the darkness beyond the divine gate's observable area enveloping the ancestral field, possibly even encompassing the wind mansion and the five seas. The scene within his body left him deeply shaken. If the ancestral field becomes part of the divine gate in the future, I could directly use the divine gate to plant my Tao seed. What might grow from a seed planted on a planet could be a towering tree. But a seed planted in the cosmos could become a celestial tree, an ancient star river root, completely unbound by the world barrier. As his emotions gradually calmed, Li Wei decided to start practicing Dragon Seed in the Wind Mansion. Studying the ancient heavenly emperor's insights into the great Tao couldn't be a bad thing. After all, Master Guan had said that the Dragon Clan's Tao was one of the most supreme great Taos in the world, a top-grade Tao seed. Dragon Seed Tao wasn't about blindly following the flying dragon's cultivation path. It was just a seed. By absorbing the ancient heavenly emperor's insights while integrating his own cultivation experiences, each person's Tao would be unique. In the Dragon Clan, or any other faction with the Tao seed of the ancient heavenly emperor, this is commonplace. It's like a tree bearing countless seeds. Boom. Li Wei retrieved a dragon seed and injected it into his wind mansion, carefully nurturing it with spiritual qi. The dragon seed resembled a radiant, crystalline dragon pearl. Under the influence of the spiritual qi, tiny scripture symbols, each no larger than a mosquito's leg, began to emerge within the dragon seed. These symbols were profound and cryptic, taking countless forms, some like rune lines, others like dragon claws, others like wind and rain, still others like thunder and lightning. All scriptures in this world are symbols of the Tao. Runes, insect scripture, formation glyphs, pill scripture, artifact scripture, beast scripture. They all possess the ability to absorb energy from the heavens and earth and transform it into various forms of extraordinary power because they are symbols of the Tao. The scriptures recorded in the Great Tao Scripture were left behind by transcendence and are known as Great Tao Scriptures. Cultivators cannot directly perceive or touch the Tao. They must rely on Great Tao Scriptures to comprehend and understand it. The Tao Seed Realm is a journey of constant study and comprehension of various scriptures. If a cultivator can fully grasp them, they can connect with the Great Tao and condense corresponding scriptures within their bodies. These scriptures will then grow and flourish, taking root, sprouting, and bearing fruit. If Li Wei wanted to communicate with the mysterious laws of heaven and earth through his battle technique intent and condense a Tao seed perfectly suited to him, he first needed to comprehend his own unique scripture before he could complete the Tao seed process. The advantage of Dragon Seed was that he didn't need to take this step. Countless ancient heavenly emperor scriptures were already contained within the Tao seed. All he needed to do was build a soul bridge to connect his soul spirit with the Dragon Seed. By merging his soul spirit with his battle technique intent, he could continuously absorb spiritual qi to strengthen himself. His insights would be imprinted onto the Dragon Seed, allowing him to forge his own unique martial mystic Tao through it. On the surface of the Dragon Seed, countless scriptures continuously shimmered as spiritual qi completely permeated it, completing its refinement. As it slowly rotated, it sent out ripples that caused a seismic shift in Li Wei's spiritual qi level, centered around his wind mansion. This transformation lasted a full day. Li Wei completed the Tao Seed process and finally entered the Tao Seed realm. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Melworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel, The Primordial Law. Volume 4, Xuanhuan Dao Sect Twin Rice Sect. Chapter 57 312 The Starry Sea Shatters, Sihang Looks Back. 57th of Volume 4. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. The layers of spiritual qi within Li Wei's body had undergone a complete qualitative transformation, like the difference between water and mercury. A single strand of qi now contained the law energy equivalent to several strands from before. The dragon seed has been planted in the wind mansion, connected to all the spiritual qi in my body and linked to my soul spirit, serving as the root of both. But I still can't comprehend the scriptures on the dragon seed. Only through constant contemplation, transforming the dragon seed scriptures into my own, and causing it to tremble, can I truly reach the second heaven of the Tao seed realm. This will manifest my Tao heart, followed by its external manifestation. In the first heaven of the Tao seed realm, Li Wei had only cultivated an invisible field. He could use this field to suppress and lock down 5 seas realm martial mystic cultivators, preventing them from escaping. Reaching the second heaven of the Tao seed realm allowed him to release his Tao heart manifestation, granting his spiritual qi greater versatility and offensive power. The Tao heart manifestation reflects the state of the wind mansion or ancestral field in the form of one's willpower. Therefore, most Tao seed realm martial mystic cultivators, Tao heart manifestations are simply spiritual qi fields, lacking any extraordinary imagery. Spiritual qi of the ice attribute can summon snow and frost. Spiritual qi of the fire attribute can set the heavens ablaze and scorch the earth. Spiritual chi of the thunder and lightning attribute can annihilate all life and travel 10,000 miles in a single day. Master Guan said the Dragon Clan's cultivation method has a complete cultivation path, system, and scripture, and is widely disseminated, making it more reliable than self-exploration of the martial mystic Tao. I planted dragon seeds in the Wind Mansion to deceive others, not to pave my future cultivation path. However, the Dragon Clan's cultivation method is still worth studying. We can borrow its system and cross-reference it with our own understanding to avoid straying from the true path through self-exploration. Rumor has it that the aberrant race martial mystic cultivator's cultivation path utilizes the Dragon Clan's method. With each major breakthrough, they consume the blood of an ancient immortal giant beast, triggering a unique transformation in their physical form. Ultimately, they transform into dragons, soaring through the heavens and earth. Since the Dragon Clan's cultivation method is so widespread, the Twin Rice sect must have recorded it as well. Directly comprehending the scriptures on a dragon seed is extremely difficult. However, the Dragon Clan's cultivation manuals contain numerous annotations on related scriptures. How should I approach this? Which scriptures should I study first, and which later? How can I use the scriptures I comprehend to cultivate the most suitable Dao technique? What's the most efficient way to study? Even for dragon seed Dao cultivators, there are countless things to learn and research, far from being achieved overnight. The faster one comprehends and learns, the faster one's breakthrough will be. Li Wei decided to first plant his true Dao seed in the Divine Gate before seeking out the Dragon Clan's cultivation manuals in the Spirit Valley, Linggu Hall. Following Master Guan's teachings, he planned to use his 12 battle technique intents to connect with the wondrous laws of heaven and earth, and through this connection, comprehend and create his own unique scripture. Li Wei's 12 battle technique intents had been cultivated through the Jade Void breathing technique and the 12 dispersed hands of the Chan sect, clearly belonging to the Chan sect's cultivation system. He didn't know whether the Chan sect's Dao seed or the dragon seed was superior, but after years of practice, every breath, every move, every nuance of the martial mystic technique had become ingrained in his bones and soul spirit. Whoosh! Whoosh! 12 battle technique intents, like 12 divine deities, rose from 12 points around his body. Each held a unique pose, majestic and sacred, like the clay statues of gods in a temple, radiating an invisible pressure that would compel ordinary people to kneel and worship willingly. Li Wei absorbed the 12 battle technique intents into his divine gate, completely attaching his mind to them. Then, following the comprehension method described in the Heavenly Demon Manual, he used the battle technique intents as bridges to perceive the Dao traces and laws within them. With Earth's martial mystic Dao in decline, his master had never taught him the Chan sect's scriptures. Li Wei could only rely on the Zhu Li clan's scripture to explore the path to the Dao seed realm. As time passed, the battle technique intent divine shadow corresponding to Sihang enlightenment began to flicker first. It then transformed into a scripture river, piercing through the immortal haze surrounding the divine gate and entering the endless darkness and void. No one knew where it was connecting to. Suddenly, an awe-inspiring scene unfolded before Li Wei's eyes. At the edge of the darkness and space, a vast starry sea appeared, strikingly similar to the central region of the Milky Way galaxy. A divine and beautiful figure stood atop the boundless cosmic divine sea, her feet resting on a lotus throne. A radiant halo shone around her, and with a mere flick of her finger, countless stars plummeted from the sky. A sea of stars vanished, transforming into a meteor shower that shot into the deep darkness of space. This figure was identical to the battle technique intent, yet her bearing and spiritual power far surpassed any mere shadow. As if sensing his gaze, she turned her head and glanced at him. Li Wei's scalp prickled, as if struck by lightning. He felt she was real, not a mere shadow of the great Tao. And she seemed to be watching him. The sensation was terrifying. Her lips moved slightly, as if she were speaking. Boom. Li Wei's entire body shuddered as the forces of time and space around him became wildly chaotic. He felt disoriented, as if tumbling through the void. When his vision cleared, he found himself back within the Buddhist pagoda formation area of the Southern Purity Nanqing Palace. His brow burned with intense heat, and his psychic power surged uncontrollably, pouring into the Tao ancestors' Tai Chi fish. One fish eye emitted a green glow, the other a crimson radiance. The two lights intertwined, slowly rotating. Above his head, a Tai Chi millstone of ever-increasing size began to coalesce. Li Wei had no idea what was happening. Panic seized him. He had seen this phenomenon once before. The first time had been at Earth's Arctic, where the Tao ancestors' Tai Chi fish had manifested a Tai Chi millstone dozens of miles in diameter, dragging everyone into this unknown and bizarre world. This was the divine sect's headquarters. If such a commotion erupted here, even in Shencang might not be able to protect him. They might even seize the Tao ancestors' Tai Chi fish first. Li Wei immediately closed his spirit realm between his eyebrows and retracted all his psychic power. Gradually, the light in the two fish eyes dimmed. The Tai Chi millstone above his head vanished. The entire world fell silent, returning to normal. Li Wei looked around, then turned inward to examine his divine gate. It was empty, the 12 battle method intent divine shadows having dissipated. Phew. He exhaled deeply, his forehead slick with cold sweat. He had been genuinely terrified. This was too strange. He had been cultivating his Tao seed and communing with the great Tao, yet he had witnessed the destruction of the starry sea. Even though he was sitting in the blood-mud space, an unknown force had pulled him back. Even though he hadn't consciously channeled his psychic power to activate the Tao ancestors' Tai Chi fish, his psychic power had surged uncontrollably, simultaneously activating both fish eyes and nearly causing disaster. This was the first time he had experienced such a loss of control, leaving Li Wei deeply shaken. Activating both fish eyes at once causes such a transformation. Li Wei's heart raced as he recalled the extraordinary sight he had witnessed in the Arctic. The massive Tai Chi millstone formed by the Tao ancestors' Tai Chi fish had been filled with Tao scriptures and Buddhist sutras. These Tao scriptures and Buddhist sutras must also be symbols of the Tao. Before this, he had been consumed by cultivation and had never attempted to activate both fish eyes simultaneously. The commotion is too great, completely uncontrollable. I need to leave the main hall and try divine pivot Tao seeding elsewhere. Li Wei took a deep breath, calming his mind before stepping out of the formation light veil. The area enclosed by the formation light veil fell into complete silence. Clang. Clatter. After a long moment, the sound of iron chains dragging across stone echoed from the 20-story tall black Buddhist pagoda. A sudden gust of cold wind swirled dust into a vortex. Inside the open doorway on the first floor of the pagoda, the withered skeleton seated in meditation eerily rose to its feet. Its deeply sunken, pitch-black eye sockets fixed on Li Wei's retreating back outside the formation light veil. The skeleton had been bound in iron chains. Now, a terrifying sound of chains snapping echoed through the pagoda. But Li Wei was already far away, completely unaware of the horrifying transformation within. Tao seeding was successful. My wind mansion has instantly expanded by more than double. Under the nourishment of Tao seed realm spiritual qi, my physical body will steadily improve over the next period. With my current strength, I should be able to contend with an ordinary Tao seed realm, fourth heaven martial mystic cultivator. Li Wei had previously clashed with Wang Shu and Wang Ji. In the fight against Wang Shu, it was a combined effort from everyone. Moreover, Wang Shu hadn't truly condensed his Tao Lotus. When facing Wang Ji, the yellow dragon sword and golden crow flame suppressed the dead spirit within him. Additionally, 6 phoenix-winged moth emperors assisted. Furthermore, Wang Ji's strength only rivaled a fourth heaven martial mystic cultivator. He wasn't a true Tao seed realm, fourth heaven cultivator. Therefore, Li Wei had never fought a genuine fourth heaven martial mystic cultivator alone. The gap in strength between the Tao seed realm, third heaven and fourth heaven was vast, not easily bridged. Those who had condensed their Tao Lotus were renowned figures throughout any province. Yao Qingshan had once said that once Li Wei possessed the strength to defeat a Tao seed realm, fourth heaven martial mystic cultivator, he could undertake missions on the surface. His strength was barely sufficient now. However, 2 matters still held him back, the golden rice and Tang Wanzhou. Li Wei arrived at the area where Tang Wanzhou was hiding within the formation. The Buddhist hall had been completely cleared. Embedded within the formation were 8 high-grade blood crystals, which, along with the ancient immortal giant beast's blood flowing through the formation's grooves, emitted a complex and mystical crimson glow. A month ago, Li Wei had teleported Tang Wanzhou away. She still hadn't returned. It was highly likely she had perished. Immortal realm only meant escaping the limitations of a mortal's lifespan, not the true immortality. Li Wei, considering his own cultivation meager, lacked her courage and wouldn't blindly use a teleportation formation to venture into the unknown. He enjoyed taking risks, viewing challenging tasks as a form of enjoyment, but only when he had a reasonable chance of success. The line between decisiveness and impulsiveness, bravery and recklessness, often hinged on a single thought. Truly decisive individuals were masters of self-restraint. Truly brave individuals understood the art of sacrifice, knowing precisely when the critical moment had arrived. Li Wei erased all traces of his presence, stepped out of the formation light veil, and headed toward the area where the golden rice was cultivated. 9 months had passed. The golden rice had grown over 30 feet tall, its leaves like golden giant swords pointing toward the heavens. Its stalks, as thick as bowls, shimmered with internal light and pulsed with vibrant life energy. Such a plant, if seen outside, would be mistaken for an immortal herb, sparking a bloody battle for its possession. Li Wei had no intention of claiming it for himself. Instead, he was filled with intense anticipation, his heart secretly thrilled and joyful. After nearly a year of cultivation, he had poured countless hours of effort, spiritual qi, and spirituality light into it. Watching it grow stronger and more resilient day by day, weathering wind and rain, how could he not have developed a deep affection for it? It had already produced golden rice stalks, each bearing 18 grain sacks. It was impossible to see what was inside the sacks, but Nshanjing had once said that most stalks contained only 2 embryos fetuses. Benevolent rice golden rice that produced 4 embryos was rare, and 6 or 8 embryos were even rarer. This was a crucial period for the embryos' development. How could Li Wei possibly leave for an extended period now? Whoosh! He unleashed his spiritual qi, transforming it into a rosy mist that surged toward the golden rice. Instantly, the rice leaves shone even brighter, and the stalks swayed gently, as if the life within was joyfully leaping. Regardless of its form, life itself was never wrong. The mistake must lie with the guide, the creator, or the time and environment of its birth. Li Wei sat on the rice paddy embankment, projecting the 20-jong tall shadow of the Fusong divine tree. Through its branches and leaves, a golden rain of golden crow flame light showered down as he began to recount the fairy tales he still remembered. It felt as if he had returned to his childhood. Master, eldest senior sister, and senior brother were all there. He ran barefoot through the fields, clutching a crab in his hand, and climbed the leaf-strewn stone steps back to the Taoist temple on the mountain. He dashed past senior brother, who was carrying water, shouting for master at the top of his lungs, while eldest senior sister had surely already prepared the meal. How warm and comforting those days were, though the memories had grown hazy. The life within the grain pouch seemed to recognize Li Wei's voice, understanding the story. The grain stalks swayed rhythmically from side to side, rustling softly. Peaceful, natural, beautiful, everything seemed eternal in that moment. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Melworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel. The Primordial Law. Volume 4, Xuansheng Dao Sect Twin Rice Sect. Chapter 58 313 News from Elder Shu. 58th of Volume 4. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. Half a day later, Li Wei arrived at the main hall of the Southern Purity Nanqing Palace. Tuoba Buchuo was meditating inside, his cultivation having reached the 3rd heaven of the Dao Seed realm. Spiritual qi swirled around him like coiling dragons. Wang Shu had only absorbed a portion of the scriptures from the dragon seed and couldn't seize it entirely, so Tuoba Buchuo and Qi Xiao's cultivation continued to advance rapidly. Tuoba Buchuo retracted his spiritual qi and opened his eyes, looking at Li Wei. Li Wei gestured for him to remain silent. His body then trembled, his flesh and bones shifting, his skin turning silver. In an instant, he transformed into Tuoba Buchuo's silver pure immortal physique, even his spiritual aura completely renewed. Tuoba Buchuo was stunned. Spirit Tablet Master had once said that once Li Wei reached the Dao Seed realm, his disguise technique would become truly flawless, a remarkable spell. Even immortal realm martial mystic cultivators might be fooled without careful scrutiny. Therefore, once he reached the Dao Seed realm, Li Wei could travel anywhere in the world without fear of his true identity being exposed. Li Wei walked to Qi Xiao, who was guarding the palace gates, and in Tuoba Buchuo's voice, asked, "My mouth's been terribly bland lately. Shall we go to the market town for a bite?" Qi Xiao didn't notice anything amiss. He said cautiously, "Let's wait until Brother Wei emerges from seclusion. We don't need to fear anyone else, but Sikong Jingyuan and Sikong Yanlin have countless experts under their command. They've been constantly antagonizing us, calling us cowards and provoking us for so long. It wouldn't be worth it to get caught now." Li Wei said, "Aren't you at the 2nd heaven of the Dao Seed realm? What are you afraid of?" Qi Xiao rolled his eyes. "Do you think everyone is an inheritor like you? You're at the 3rd heaven of the Dao Seed realm and can escape even if you encounter someone at the 4th heaven. How can you compare me to you?" Li Wei asked, "Do you notice anything different about me today?" Qi Xiao examined him from head to toe for a moment, his expression changing. "Have you condensed a Dao Lotus and reached the 4th heaven?" Ha ha ha. Li Wei and Tuoba Buchuo, who had just emerged from within, burst into laughter simultaneously. Tuoba Buchuo said, "Brother Wei, look at his face. He keeps calling us brothers, but if I really broke through to the 4th heaven today, I guarantee he'd be fuming for days. If I hadn't been imprisoned for a year, severely delaying my cultivation, would I have fallen behind you?" Qi Xiao turned to Li Wei, studying him intently. He exclaimed in amazement, "This disguise technique is incredible. Flawless. It's practically indistinguishable from the real thing. If used outside, it could wield unimaginable power in the conflicts of the world." Li Wei reverted to his true appearance and asked, "How are your arms? Have they fully recovered?" "Almost. Even when using full strength, the broken area only aches slightly. It'll probably take several years of nourishing to fully recover." Tuoba Buchuo and Qi Xiao flexed their arms, smiles on their faces. "Come, let's first pay a visit to the Spirit Valley Lingu Hall." Li Wei strode forward, asking, "What scriptures did you study in the 1st level of the Dao Seed realm?" Tuoba Butuo and Qishao instinctively fell half a step behind. Qishao asked in surprise, Brother Wei, you've reached the Dao Seed realm. I successfully seeded Dao in the Wind Mansion. Li Wei's spirits soared, his mood exceptionally high. But upon hearing this, the two men behind him grew somber, both feeling regret for him. Though once more powerful than even the young emperor at the same cultivation level, he was now forced down a path that was destined to fail. Fortunately, his innate talent for psychic power was also exceptionally high, otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to remain as strong as he was now. If he were to reappear in the outside world, his mastery of psychic power alone would be enough to shock many into silence. Tuoba Butuo said, in the Spirit Valley Lingu Hall's Technique Pavilion, the Dragon Codex, 7 Transformations of the Soaring Dragon, and Complete Explanation of the Heavenly Dragon Sutra, were all worth studying in detail. Qishao glanced around and cautioned, shouldn't we proceed cautiously? If those 2 fifth divine sons are at headquarters and learn of our arrival, they'll definitely come to ambush us. Li Wei chuckled, we've been hiding for 9 months. We're not the same as before. There's no need to keep hiding. If they come to ambush me, can't I just run if I can't beat them? I'll hold them off. I'll activate the ghost banner, Tuoba Butuo offered. That's a good idea. With Tuoba's third heaven cultivation, activating the ghost banner will give the Yin Ghost Commander the power to fight one of them head-on. Having reached the Dao Seed realm, Li Wei's confidence had soared. He was brimming with vigor, and his hidden trump cards could finally unleash a fraction of their true power. Greetings, Divine Son. Welcome, Divine Son. Upon entering Spirit Valley Lingu Hall, all inner sect disciples and core disciples respectfully stepped aside to bow, their gazes averted to avoid any offense. That's Venerable Nan's eldest disciple, the most dazzling figure at the Hidden Dragon Lantern Festival. Now, even Luansheng Linyu, who once dominated the Lingxiao realm, considers him a formidable rival. Rumor has it he might be the Hall Master's illegitimate son. They say she even banished the first divine son from headquarters for his sake. How dare you speak such words? Are you courting death? Amidst the murmurs, the 3 entered the technique hall and each went to search for scriptures to study. Li Wei's purpose in bringing Tuoba Butuo and Qishao to the Spirit Valley Lingu Hall was precisely this. Both of them needed to cultivate, but they usually dared not leave the southern Purity Nanqing Palace easily, fearing encounters with Sikong Jingyuan and Sikong Yanlin. The Twin Rice Sects, Dragon Codex, 7 Transformations of the Soaring Dragon, and Complete Explanation of the Heavenly Dragon Sutra, were all transcribed and engraved using a transcendent intent. While they differed slightly from the original scriptures, they were more than sufficient for Dao Seed realm martial mystic cultivators to comprehend. These 3 spiritual codices scriptures would be invaluable not only in the first level of the Dao Seed realm but even after forming a Dao fruit. They were not meant to be fully understood in a short time. Li Wei felt that the complete explanation of the Heavenly Dragon Sutra would be most beneficial to him. This was an extremely weighty spiritual codex, containing hundreds of thousands of annotations on the scriptures, all engraved on a 100 Jin silver-bound volume. He borrowed it directly. On the first floor, Elder Shu was responsible for registration. Li Wei whispered, Lao Shu, what about the person I asked you to keep an eye on? Is Yang Qingxi in the Goddess Pavilion? After 9 months of cultivation, Li Wei had spent a fortune. He had nearly sold off all his valuable treasures, even his merit points were exhausted. He desperately needed to find funds to purchase a spirit platform blazing star stone fragment. Though he lacked the star spiritual pill, Li Wei's cultivation speed had already reached the peak of 3-star spiritual master. All he needed was to acquire a spirit platform blazing star stone to quickly break through. The nickname, Lao Shu, was Elder Shu's mandatory request. As Elder Shu registered him, he sent a spiritual qi transmission. She still goes out for training once a month, always to the Junli Zen Forest, Truth Zen Forest, in the south. You're a step too late, she left yesterday. Since killing Wang Shu, Yang Qingxi hadn't returned to the southern Purity Nanqing Palace. The so-called sharing of the secret treasure vault. A woman's words were naturally not to be trusted. Fortunately, Li Wei had long ago asked Elder Shu to keep an eye on her every move. Though Wang Shu was dead, the dead spirit within Wang Ji had been absorbed by Yang Qingchen. That dead spirit contained a fragment of Wang Shu's soul spirit, and it might hold some clues. Elder Shu said, her behavior is indeed strange. Li Wei asked, how so? Elder Shu replied, the underground immortal mansion is vast, like a world thousands of miles in diameter, with the headquarters occupying only a small portion. The undeveloped areas outside the headquarters are divided into 5 directions: east, south, west, north, and below. The below is extremely dangerous, so it's guarded by the withered flourish Karong Hall. But the southern region is equally dangerous, Elder Shu continued. The Truth Zen Forest, the Netherblack Swamp, and the Buddha's Head Blood Sea are all perilous areas where many true inheritance disciples have perished. Some places are even avoided by Immortal Realm cultivators and the ancestor of Twin Rice sect himself. That's why, for 1,000 years, the southern region has remained largely unexplored. If we had known earlier that there was another entrance to the underground immortal mansion in the extreme south, we would have sealed it off long ago. We wouldn't be in this passive defensive position now. It was clear that the southernmost entrance to the underground immortal mansion was the one Li Wei and Tang Wanzhou had used, separated from the central area by the dangerous Truth Zen Forest, Netherblack Swamp, and Buddha's Head Blood Sea. The Nether Spirit Plane's danger level paled in comparison. Elder Shu continued, the Truth Zen Forest is extremely dangerous, with the lowest probability of finding resources or treasures. Yet Yang Qingxi insists on exploring it every month. It's completely illogical. Oh, and Sikong Yanlin seems to have his eye on her. He set out for the Truth Zen Forest first this morning. Li Wei chuckled. Didn't Sikong Jingyuan go? The Spirit Valley Lingu Hall Guard Army brothers guarding the southern formation didn't mention him. Elder Shu had a vast network of connections at headquarters, treating many as brothers. After registering, Li Wei and Elder Shu went to the resource treasury. To their surprise, they learned that the Hall Master had taken all the Spirit Platform Blazing Star Stone fragments. Elder Shu, known for his cold demeanor, said, the Hall Master has ordered that all Spirit Platform Blazing Star Stone fragments found by disciples from now on must be sent to her. She has a great use for them. Li Wei hadn't expected the arrow he'd shot half a year ago to land on him. Could I keep a few pieces? I don't need many, just 4 or 5 will do. The Hall Master said. All, Elder Shu replied coldly, showing no leniency. Li Wei and Elder Shu left without much emotion. Even if he could buy Spirit Platform Blazing Star Stone fragments now, he lacked both the money and merit points. He'd have to wait until Shanjing returned to headquarters and ask her directly. After all, he'd done her such a huge favor, he wouldn't be polite. Moreover, the golden rice was about to ripen, so she and Yao Qingshan would surely return soon. Li Wei asked, Lao Shu, how many Spirit Platform Blazing Star Stone fragments do disciples find each year? It's hard to say exactly, but at least dozens are brought to the Spirit Valley Lingu Hall to exchange for merit points and resources. Even more are taken to the Heavenly Principles Tianli Hall, since the spiritual masters there are always waiting in line for them, Elder Shu replied. Li Wei asked again, where is the most likely place to find them? The Netherblack Swamp to the south. It was a major battlefield during the ancient Bhagavata sect's internal conflict. The meditation mushrooms that grow there are treasures for psychic power cultivation. Many disciples go there to train and search, harvesting the mushrooms to exchange for massive merit points. The Spirit Platform Blazing Star Stone is just a bonus for the lucky ones who find it alongside the mushrooms. Elder Shu's expression shifted, and he exclaimed in surprise, Divine Son, are you planning to break through to 4-star Spiritual Master and go searching for the Spirit Platform Blazing Star Stone yourself? Indeed, I have such thoughts. Li Wei smiled faintly, but his primary goal was to find a secluded place to see Dao in his divine pivot. If he happened to find some Spirit Platform Blazing Star Stones, that would be even better. After all, with Feng's second Phoenix's help in detecting treasure auras, his efficiency would undoubtedly be higher than that of other martial mystic cultivators. Elder Shu was astonished by Li Wei's rapid cultivation progress. He had only been at headquarters for less than a year, and his psychic power was already on the verge of consecutive breakthroughs. What kind of heaven-defying genius was this? If you must go, be extremely cautious. The area outside headquarters is dangerous, but the greater danger lies within. Although the Hall Master has made a strong statement, many forbidden zones remain uncharted territory. Elder Shu was a perceptive man. He spoke only briefly, understanding that to intervene would be a breach of etiquette. Li Wei, Qi Xiao, and Tuoba Butuo left the Spirit Valley Lingu Hall and asked for their opinions. The two men immediately became excited. We're desperate for cultivation resources and have been wanting to go out and find some for ages. Otherwise, even if our cultivation levels rise, our physical bodies will remain severely deficient. Li Wei made a decision. I suspect news of my emergence from seclusion will reach certain ears soon. There's no time to waste. Let's leave now to avoid being followed. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel. The Primordial Law. Volume 4, Xuanhuan Dao Sect Twin Rice Sect. Chapter 59 314 God-Slaying Servant. 59th of Volume 4. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. After 1,000 years of transformation and construction, the main hall now occupied an area spanning 400 to 500 miles, resembling an independent microcosm. The air was thick with spiritual qi, shrouded by layers of formation light veils that shielded it from external dangers. Li Wei and his two companions passed through 7 layers of these formation light veils. Each layer was separated by about 10 miles, the intervening spaces varying between desolate deserts, ruined landscapes, rivers of blood, and fortified city walls. Beneath each formation light veil stood a large contingent of soldiers clad in black robes and masked with veils. Each possessed profound cultivation and sharp, piercing eyes. To leave the main hall, one had to present their life token and register at each formation light veil. Finally, they reached the last formation light veil. From afar, they could see the towering 12-foot-high city wall, constructed from massive stones and densely packed metal. The wall teemed with twin rice sect members, giant beasts, and spiritual masters, countless in number. They worked day and night, reinforcing and raising the wall, and deploying even more powerful formations. Clearly, since the opening of the second entrance to the south, the Twin Rice sect had been under immense survival pressure. They were actively preparing for war, bracing for the worst-case scenario. The reason Li Wei hadn't noticed this before was because those cultivating in the mortal realm layer were all top-tier geniuses of the Twin Rice sect, the elite of the elite. They were protected and didn't need to participate in manual labor. On the city walls, at least tens of thousands of sect members were toiling, each strong and robust, half of them aberrant humanoids. And this was just the southern section of the wall. Fourth Divine Sun. The south city gate was guarded by 2 elderly cultivators with profound psychic power. Their hair was white, and their faces bore the markings of rice stalks. One of the elders turned to Qishao and Tuo Babuchuo. Those who leave the main hall for missions and training must plant the death spirit fire. This applies to everyone. Li Wei asked, does this divine son need to as well? The elder chuckled, your status as a divine son is too noble. This old servant would never doubt your loyalty to the divine sect. Of course, it's unnecessary. Whoosh. Whoosh. 2 death spirit fires shot out from the black palaces atop the city walls and entered Qishao and Tuo Babuchuo's bodies. Li Wei looked up, sensing a suffocating psychic power emanating from the black palaces, like a black hole, impossible to probe. A formidable cultivator was stationed at the main hall's southern side. The next moment, a Buddha statue appeared atop the black palaces, its double pupils glowing with golden light. Instantly, tens of thousands of scripture characters flashed across its body. Li Wei and his 2 companions felt an intensely uncomfortable force pressing down on them. Not only were their cosmic pouches and ancestral fields exposed, but it felt as if even their bones were being pierced, leaving no trace of their presence concealed. The Buddha statue's eyes were 10,000 character scripture artifacts, capable of piercing through all things in the world to prevent outsiders from infiltrating or escaping. The Twin Rice sect possessed 8 such myriad character artifact Buddha statues. The city gates remained closed. Instead, Li Wei and the other 20-odd disciples descended through a celestial well to the next layer of the world, tens of thousands of meters below. The main hall had developed a total of 7 layers. Each layer was separated by 10,000 meters. The mortal realm layer, located at the center, was heavily guarded and inaccessible except by descending through the celestial well to the first level of the Asura layer, from which one could then exit. An hour later, they arrived at the first level of the Asura layer. Li Wei finally witnessed the other side of the Twin Rice sect. Before him lay low, squat houses and endless stretches of red earth and yellow sand, the training grounds for the God Slayer servants. Everywhere along the road, horse-drawn carts carried away cartloads of corpses, their destination unknown. In the training grounds, black-clad youths, both male and female, wielded various weapons, locked in brutal combat. Their eyes burned with the ferocity of wild beasts, each strike meant to draw blood, a fight to the death. The springs opened slowly. Those in the spring surge realm couldn't open the 8th spring. Those who failed to reach the 5 seas realm within the prescribed age were also sent to the first layer of the Asura layer to be trained as God Slayer servants. Through daily combat, their spirits were honed, their hatred cultivated, and their latent potential stimulated. This extreme method was designed to forge killing machines. The mortality rate was exceptionally high, but those who survived emerged as formidable figures. Some even surpassed the achievements of intersect disciples and true inheritance disciples. These individuals weren't the least talented, they were of mid to upper tier talent, deemed worthy of cultivation. Tuo Babuchuo, having some knowledge of the heretical sect, secretly transmitted, these are God Slayer servant seeds. They're incredibly terrifying, far more than mere killers. Their intelligence, cunning, survival skills, resilience, and mastery of secret techniques are all exceptional. There was once a God Slayer servant who single-handedly slaughtered 12 Dao Seed Realm experts in the Northern Territory. Only after the young lord personally intervened was he captured, but he ultimately committed suicide, revealing no information. Thud, thud. 2 rice people black-clad girls rushed before Li Wei, knelt in unison, and bowed deeply to him. In this year's life or death battle, we ranked 33rd. We humbly beg Divine Sun to accept us as servants. Together, we have killed 38 people. We no longer wish to continue killing. We wish to cultivate in the mortal realm layer and serve Divine Sun. 2 black-clad youths rushed forward and knelt before Li Wei as well. In this year's life or death battle, we ranked 17th. We pledge to serve Divine Sun as our master. If Master lives, we live. If Master dies, we die. We swear to remain loyal to Divine Sun until death. More and more God Slayer servant seeds surged forward, kneeling on both sides of the road. Before officially becoming God Slayer servants, they had no names, only their life or death battle rankings to identify themselves. Hall Masters, Venerable Ones, Elders, and Divine Sons and Daughters could all come to the Asura layer to select servants and death warriors. Most chose God Slayer servant seeds whose strength was already formidable, allowing them to be immediately deployed. Only those with exceptional talent were exceptions. For instance, geniuses who had opened their 9th spring through brutal combat and fierce struggles. God Slayer servants were also ranked, with some whose cultivation and combat prowess surpassed even Divine Sons and Daughters and Elders, existing like hidden ones. Perhaps because he never considered himself a Divine Son, Li Wei had no intention of selecting servants or death warriors. He quickly led Tuoba Buchuo and Qishao away. Emerging from the formation light veil, they followed a suspension bridge across the canyon. The bridge was incredibly long, shrouded in blood mist with gales raging through the air. They couldn't see the bridge's end ahead, the top above, or the bottom below. Many suspension bridges spanned the canyon, densely packed and staggered at different heights, connecting to various passages and destinations. On this bridge, only the 3 of them remained. Qishao exhaled deeply. The first layer of the Asura layer is a training ground for God Slayer servants. Just in the area we just passed, there were thousands of people. Training grounds were everywhere, and the conditions were harsh. Could there be hundreds of thousands of people on this entire layer? How many powerful individuals does this place cultivate each year? The heretical sect's hidden and latent power is truly unimaginable. Tuoba Buchuo spoke up. Among the group who descended from the celestial well with us earlier, there was a masked figure. I believe I know him. I sensed a familiar aura from him. He even glanced at me briefly. It's normal for experts hiding outside to return to the main hall for cultivation and training. From now on, we should wear masks whenever we go out. Li Wei, remembering something, added, I've already secured your positions as true inheritance disciples of the Spirit Valley, Lingu Hall. Never mention the words, heretical sect, again. Be cautious with your words and actions. Qishao and Tuoba Buchuo knew that they had survived and had their severed limbs reattached only because Li Wei had risked his life to vouch for them. Betraying the Twin Rice sect would be an act of ingratitude. Therefore, they never once considered using this opportunity to escape the main hall. It's unlikely they'll ever return to the Qi clan or the Tuoba. The 2 men immediately stopped and bowed respectfully. Rest assured, Divine Sun, there won't be a next time. As agreed, you'll address me as Divine Sun in public, but privately, we're brothers. Let's go, pick up the pace. Li Wei circulated his spiritual power, activating his body technique. He transformed into a wisp of azure smoke and shot across the suspension bridge. The 2 men followed close behind. The 10-mile-long suspension bridge separated the main hall from the outside world. Li Wei had read books about the Netherdark Swamp in the Spirit Valley, Lingu Hall and knew it was still 500 miles away. This 500 miles had been repeatedly cleared by generations of Twin Rice sect disciples. With their cultivation levels, the danger was minimal. Only extremely bad luck would lead them to encounter any stray ferocious beasts. After rushing out for dozens of miles, Li Wei and his companions took refuge in a stone cave carved into the cliff face. Whoosh! Li Wei set up a hidden light formation at the cave entrance. Then, each of them applied a chi-concealing talisman to their bodies and waited quietly, watching for any pursuers. Over the past 6 months, Li Wei had gained some expertise in formations and talisman techniques, allowing him to employ a few minor tricks. A gust of wind whistled past. Xikong Jingyuan and the 2 Dao Seed Realm Elders moved like 3 streaks of afterimages, hurtling forward at breakneck speed. They were gaining ground rapidly, but they weren't bothering to scout the area. They actually caught up. This 5th Divine Sun seems to have a rather intense interest in me, Li Wei mused, leaning against the stone wall at the mouth of the cave, a smile playing on his lips. He was already plotting his next move. Tuoba Buchuo suggested, the 5th Divine Sun is one of a pair of Rendao brothers, both with pure immortal physiques. They're renowned throughout the main hall. Should we take advantage of their separation, when their combat strength is greatly diminished, and eliminate one of them first? Li Wei was tempted. He didn't want to be constantly watched like this. There was no point in living in fear of thieves forever. He shook his head. We're too close to the main hall, only a few dozen miles away. Any major disturbance would surely alert those old geezers. Besides, I suspect Xikong Jingyuan isn't the only one following us. Qi Xiao cautioned, Sikong Jingyuan is far more powerful than Wang Shu. Don't underestimate him. The two elders trailing behind him also have formidable spiritual qi fluctuations. They're not your average Dao Seed Realm cultivators. Li Wei nodded slowly. Our primary objective here is to find cultivation resources. They waited another half hour. Outside, the silence remained unbroken, save for the occasional sound of fierce insects crawling past. Li Wei was about to dismantle the hidden light formation when a chilling sense of danger washed over him. He immediately sat back down, gesturing for Tuoba Buchuo and Qi Xiao to remain silent and conceal their qi. Moments later, another group of people sped past the cave entrance. Leading them was Yi Zhouzu, a 1,000-guard commander from the patrol guard. Tuoba Buchuo's expression turned grave. Brother Wei was right. There are indeed experts here. Yi Zhouzu is a great true inheritance disciple. It's fortunate we didn't act rashly earlier. Qi Xiao, who had nearly suffocated under the overwhelming pressure, let out a long breath. They were probably just passing by, right? Tuoba Buchuo shook his head. Everyone who leaves the main hall is registered in real time. If someone of Yi Zhouzu's caliber were to attack the Divine Sun, their trail would be easily traced. They would face certain retribution from the Hall Master and the Southern Venerable. Li Wei didn't share their optimism. The Divine Sect's rules and the Hall Master and Southern Venerable's authority do deter many. But the treasure I carry could also tempt some reckless individuals to take risks. For the past half year, Yi Zhouzu has been completely silent, as if all past grievances had vanished. But it's precisely this kind of person, who knows how to endure and restrain themselves, who is the most dangerous. What do we do now? Should we go back? Qi Xiao felt that they had no chance of defeating a great true inheritance disciple. It would be too embarrassing to turn tail and run just after entering. The underground immortal mansion has a complex structure with many dangerous areas. Finding us won't be easy. Let's go. Change course and head for the Netherdark Swamp. Li Wei retracted the hidden light formation and turned back, following the intricate paths downward. Tuoba Buchuo looked puzzled. Weren't we just on the path to the Netherdark Swamp? That was the path to the Truth Zen Forest. Everyone assumes I'll go there, just like Yang Qingxi. So, I'll play along and led them in that direction, Li Wei explained. Qi Xiao chuckled. No wonder they didn't bother to search the path carefully when they passed by. Their minds are fixed on the idea that you and the demoness Yang are on the same side. Demoness Yang, Yang Yaonu, is in big trouble. Tuoba Buchuo smiled and looked at Li Wei. Li Wei said, Yang Qingxi has entered and exited the Truth Zen Forest many times without being attacked or harmed. Clearly, the Yang family is not to be trifled with. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Melworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel. The Primordial Law. Volume 4, Xuansheng Dao Sect Twin Rice Sect. Chapter 60 315 The 12-Character Dao Seed. 60th of Volume 4. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. The Netherblack Swamp was a crucial training and treasure hunting ground due to the presence of the meditation mushroom and the spirit platform Blazing Star Stone. As a result, it was teeming with disciples from the Divine Sect. Groups of 3 to 5 disciples often traveled together. Li Wei and his companions donned masks to conceal their identities. Li Wei approached returning disciples, hoping to purchase spirit platform Blazing Star Stone fragments on credit. All attempts failed. The Twin Rice Sect disciples were cautious, as if guarding against thieves. They either kept their distance or claimed to have found nothing. If not for the pursuit of powerful enemies, Li Wei would have been tempted to use his status as the Divine Sun to stop and search every disciple's boundary pouch. The 500-mile journey was treacherous, with rugged terrain, numerous forks, and occasional detours around hazardous areas. By the time they reached the Netherblack Swamp, they had actually traveled nearly 1,000 miles. The swamp before them reeked of a pungent stench. The soil was soft and waterlogged, with countless pools of stagnant water. The air was thick with miasma that had lingered for tens of thousands of years, severely impairing visibility. Luminous plants grew throughout the swamp, and glowing fierce insects occasionally flitted through the air, preventing complete darkness. The Netherblack Swamp, Li Wei said, consulting the book, according to ancient texts, it spans 1,000 miles. It was once the site of a major battle during the ancient Bhagavata sect era. This place was once incredibly glorious, but it was devastated by that conflict. Beneath the mud lie countless buried structures and corpses. The dangers and mysteries are too numerous to fully unravel even after 1,000 years. The area within 100 miles is considered relatively safe. Beyond 300 miles, it's strictly forbidden to venture. Li Wei explained the information from the book to the other two. Let's split up and search. If we encounter danger, use a whistle to signal each other. I've personally drawn divine swiftness talismans for each of you. Sikong Jingyuan and Yi Zhouzu, along with their other enemies, will likely realize they've been tricked soon. They'll inevitably come here eventually, so we must be extremely cautious. Old Chi, your cultivation is a bit weaker. Take this 4th grade 100-character artifact, the invisibility cloak, to wear. The invisibility cloak had been given to them by Shencang. The three of them dispersed and plunged into the Netherworld Swamp. Tuoba Buchuo and Qishao were both powerful cultivators who had survived the Hidden Dragon Lantern Festival. They possessed both cunning and survival skills, making them more than capable of handling themselves. Li Wei wasn't overly worried about their safety. After entering the swamp, Li Wei concealed his aura and changed direction, heading toward a remote, peripheral area. Upon reaching the shore, he found himself facing a mountain range over 1,000 meters high. The mountain range was dark and barren, its peaks rising like slumbering dragons along the eastern edge of the Netherworld Swamp. After half a day of searching, Li Wei discovered a cave in the mountains. Only after confirming that no one had visited it in years did he enter. The stone walls of the cave were carved with Buddhist statues, covered in dense ice silk spiderwebs. After slaying the male and female spiders that had made their lair in the cave, Li Wei claimed the spider nest for himself. He used massive boulders to seal the entrance completely. Still uneasy, he retrieved the yellow dragon sword and dug 100 meters into the earth. Standing in the pitch-black depths, he could hear no sound from the surface. Only then did Li Wei finally relax and sit cross-legged in meditation. Whoosh! A light ignited between his eyebrows. Spiritual light particles, like a swarm of fireflies, danced and swirled through the underground passage, illuminating the darkness. These glowing motes converged on the two fish eyes of the Tao ancestors' Tai Chi fish. One eye represented the Shaoyang star, while the other contained the power of time. Li Wei wondered what would happen if he activated both simultaneously. Would he be sent directly back to Earth? Crack, crack. The Tao ancestors' Tai Chi fish began to rotate slowly. After 3 full rotations, distant chanting and Taoist invocations echoed in Li Wei's ears, growing clearer and louder, as if another world were drawing near. The space around him warped and twisted. The underground scenery gradually blurred. Whoosh! Countless Tao scriptures and Buddhist sutras poured forth from the Tao ancestors' Tai Chi fish, swirling around Li Wei's body in a dense, all-encompassing cloud. These Tao scriptures and Buddhist sutras were profoundly esoteric, forming 2 vast seas of characters that floated above and below him, rotating like a Tai Chi diagram. Everything else vanished. Li Wei felt as though he were sitting in the void of the universe, wandering among the infinite great Taos. It was overwhelming. His heart surged with excitement, making it impossible to remain still. He stood up and walked through the sea of scriptures. With each step, the scriptures beneath his feet trembled. Li Wei reached out, trying to grasp a Tao script, but it slipped through his fingers. He couldn't hold on. After a moment of contemplation, he began practicing the jade void breathing technique. His mind gradually calmed, his spirit cleared, and his arms slowly rose as he executed the first technique of the Chan sect's 12 dispersed hands, the heaven-turning palm seal. Then came the second move, the third. He repeated the sequence again and again. 12 colossal projections of battle technique intent appeared at the 12 cardinal points of the sea of characters. Their bodies were as vast as mountains, their presence sacred and majestic. Their bearing was extraordinary, their eyes filled with spirituality and wisdom, as though they possessed life, not merely shadows. Li Wei opened his eyes and surveyed his surroundings, feeling as insignificant as dust before the 12 divine projections. Could it be that the Chan sect legends of the 12 immortals truly exist? Their auras are even more terrifying than the transcendent realm. If they once appeared on Earth, where did they go? Why would they leave behind legends on Earth? At that moment, Li Wei had shed his earlier shock and trepidation. He faced the gazes of the 12 divine projections with a strange calm he found unsettling. Is this still my battle intent? Li Wei extended his right hand, fingers spread, toward the divine projection of a crane-haired, youthful-faced immortal riding a divine beast. He reached out to draw the projection into his divine pivot. Ha ha ha. A vast, earth-shaking laugh erupted, shaking heaven and earth. The divine projection had come to life, stroking his long beard and laughing heartily. Jade Void's wave of a hand shatters 10,000 laws, a single seal flips the heavens and stills mountains and river of stars. He struck out with his palm, and a divine seal, countless times larger than Li Wei's body, materialized. It descended from the heavens, accompanied by thunder and lightning, causing space to collapse. Li Wei's expression changed drastically. He didn't know where the courage came from, but he refused to be cowed. Instead, he raised his hands in a sky-supporting posture and, incredibly, managed to hold the divine seal steady. Li Wei was struggling to hold on, but he could endure it. This was utterly bizarre. Countless great Tao symbols flew out from the divine seal, condensing into scriptures. Li Wei stared at the scriptures floating before him. Though he had never seen them before, they felt as familiar as words he had learned since childhood. Yet he couldn't understand them at all, it was agonizing. These must be the Tao I touched while cultivating the heaven-turning palm seal. I must comprehend them to make them my own and forge a Tao seed. Boom. The divine seal above Li Wei's head was struck away by a familiar sword. It was the yellow dragon sword. The phantom wielding the yellow dragon sword raised its voice. The crane's shadow flies alone beyond the battle clouds. The Tao heart, free from desire, laughs at the mortal world. Since you cannot comprehend his Tao, forge your Tao seed with mine. The yellow dragon sword slashed down, unleashing a torrent of 10,000 dragons. Roar. Li Wei fought against the 10,000 dragons, but he was hopelessly outmatched. He had no choice but to activate Yellow Dragon ascending to heaven and flee toward the sky. The Tai, Supreme Unity Divine Sword cuts through karma, subduing demons and vanquishing evil with compassion. Above him, a divine phantom swung its sword downward, splitting the sea in two. Li Wei finally understood. None of this was real. He wasn't battling those 12 figures, he was contending with their Tao. Having cultivated the Chan sect's 12 dispersed hands for years, he possessed the ability to communicate with 12 different Tao. I won't dodge. Whatever move they use, I'll counter with the same. Observe. This is a rare learning opportunity. Their techniques are infinitely profound, perhaps even more powerful than imperial techniques. Li Wei's resolve was unwavering, fearlessly drawing the yellow dragon sword and unleashing Tai Yi opens the sea, its blade piercing the heavens. With a single strike, he shattered the sword descending from above. A golden scripture fell into his body, hovering in his divine pivot. Li Wei turned inward, examining the scripture. To his surprise, he could understand it. It resembled both the traces of a sword technique and the pathways of qi, yet also carried an indescribable sense of mystery. My sword technique is stronger than his, so I've earned great Tao symbols, which have condensed into scripture, allowing me to directly see Tao. Li Wei's mind was clear. He realized this was because he had devoted the most effort to Tai Yi opens the sea technique, repeatedly using it in life or death situations, gaining a deeper understanding. This allowed him to easily pluck the Tao seed. If that's the case, then let's go. I'll claim all your Taos. Li Wei charged toward the next godly shadow, his aura surging with each step. His mind was sharp, his battle spirit ablaze. Time passed in countless moments of contemplation and battle. Li Wei stepped on the shimmering light of a jade cauldron, crushing the one flying toward him and claiming his 12th scripture. The entire world fell silent. Within Li Wei's divine pivot, the 12 scriptures spun and flew at dizzying speeds, transforming the liquid spiritual qi into a swirling vortex. The vortex spread throughout his body, drawing all the spiritual qi from his 7 qi seas into the divine pivot. The spiritual qi condensed like a gentle drizzle, becoming liquid. Gradually, the 12 scriptures within the liquid spiritual qi coalesced, forming a single, radiant Tao seed that instantly illuminated the previously dark and empty divine pivot, extending its light far into the distance. Wherever the light shone, spiritual qi mist filled the air. What surprised Li Wei most was that as the 12-character Tao seed rotated, faint images of a Tai, qi pattern and a swastika light shadow flickered within it, crisscrossed by countless Tao traces. With the successful seed Tao cultivation, the acupoint below was now covered in liquid spiritual qi. After condensing the Tao seed, I completely drained all 7 of my qi seas. I wonder if directly channeling the liquid spiritual qi from my divine pivot to cast martial mystic path techniques and Tao techniques would make them even more powerful. Li Wei retracted his psychic power, and the ocean of Tao scriptures and Buddhist sutras flew back into the Tao ancestor Tai Chi fish. The distorted space around him returned to normal, and he reappeared in the underground cave. The emptiness emanating from his 7 qi seas was excruciating, more painful than 10 days of starvation. He activated the Buddha's relic fish eye alone, entering the blood mud space and traveling to the Tanggu Sea. There, on the sea's surface, he practiced the jade void breathing technique, absorbing the spiritual qi of heaven and earth. With each breath, spiritual qi flowed in from the outside, circulating around the 12-character Tao seed in his divine pivot and undergoing refinement. Li Wei could clearly feel the spiritual qi condensed in his qi seas rising in grade once again, and his physical body subtly underwent further transformation. His ancestral field and wind mansion both expanded further. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel.